They called me the help at my own dinner table. His mother actually asked me to clear the plates. In my mansion. See, they thought their billionaire son married beneath him. A street cleaner, she called me. Little did they know, I owned the ground they walked on. Before we get into this story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because you won't believe how this unfolds. And stay till the very end, because the twist? Nobody saw it coming. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. My name is Angela Brighton, and I need to tell you about the night that changed everything. The night I invited my future in-laws to dinner and watched them reveal exactly who they were. But to understand that night, you need to understand how I got there. I met Thomas at a charity gala 3 years ago. It was one of those black tie events where everyone's trying to outdress and outdonate each other. I was there because, well, I'd actually funded the entire event. But nobody knew that. I've always kept my business dealings private, operating through LLCs and management companies. When you're a young black woman in real estate, you learn quickly that anonymity is sometimes your greatest asset. Thomas was different from the other men there. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was genuinely interested in the cause. We were raising money for youth education programs. We started talking by the champagne table, and he made me laugh. Really laugh. He told me about his work in tech investment, but he didn't brag. He asked about me, and I told him I worked in property management, which wasn't a lie. I just didn't mention that I managed a $1 billion portfolio. We dated for 6 months before he proposed, and in that time, I fell completely in love with him. He was kind, thoughtful, and he treated me like I was the most important person in the world. He didn't care that I drove a regular car or that I wore simple clothes. He loved me for me, and that's exactly what I wanted. That's why I never told him about the money. But here's the thing about hiding your wealth. Eventually, truth has a way of coming out. And I was planning to tell him. I really was. I just wanted to make sure he loved me first, not what I could offer him. What I didn't count on was his parents forcing the issue. Catherine and William Hughes. Old money. The kind of family that has portraits going back 6 generations and thinks their last name means something. Thomas had warned me about them. He'd said, and I quote, "My mother has very specific ideas about who I should marry." He'd told me they were traditional, that they valued status and reputation above almost everything else, but he'd also promised me that their opinion didn't matter. He loved me, and that was enough. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But when Catherine called and insisted on meeting me before she would approve the engagement, something in her tone made my skin crawl. She didn't ask to meet me. She demanded it, like I was applying for a position in their family rather than marrying the man I loved. Thomas tried to fight it. He said we didn't need their blessing. But I could see it bothered him, the tension with his parents. So I suggested we have them over for dinner. "At your place?" he asked. He'd only ever been to my small downtown apartment, the one I kept for convenience. "Sure," I said, smiling. "At my place." I didn't tell him I meant my actual home. The 12-bedroom estate on 40 acres that I'd purchased 5 years ago, the place I'd carefully restored and furnished, the place that represented everything I'd built from nothing. I decided that dinner would be the night I revealed everything, to Thomas and to his parents. I'd tell them the truth, and we'd see who they really were. The day of the dinner, I had my staff prepare everything. My estate manager, Mr. Peterson, had been with me for 4 years. He knew how I operated, how I valued privacy. I instructed him and the rest of the staff to act natural, to do their jobs, but not to make a big deal about me being the owner. I wanted to see how Catherine and William would behave when they thought I was just a regular person. Maybe someone's employee, maybe someone they could look down on. When Thomas arrived that evening and saw the mansion, his face went completely blank. "Angela, what is this place? Whose house is this?" I kissed his cheek and said, "We'll talk about everything tonight, I promise. Right now, your parents are about to arrive." He looked confused, maybe even a little hurt that I'd kept something from him, but he didn't have time to ask questions because the intercom buzzed. Catherine and William had arrived at the gate. I watched them on the security monitor as they drove up the long driveway. Their Bentley looked small against the backdrop of the mansion. When they stepped out, Catherine's head was tilted back, her eyes scanning the building with obvious surprise. I could read her lips even without sound. "Whose house is this?" I opened the door myself, not Mr. Peterson, not any of the staff. Me. I wanted to see their faces. Catherine was dressed in designer everything, dripping in jewelry that probably cost more than most people's cars. William wore a suit that screamed custom tailoring and old money. They both looked at me, then past me, like they were searching for the real owner of the house. "Welcome," I said warmly. "Please come in." Catherine's smile was tight as she stepped inside. Her eyes were everywhere, taking in the marble floors, the grand staircase, the crystal chandelier that hung in the foyer. "What a impressive home," she said slowly. "Which of your friends owns this place?" "Did you borrow it for the evening?" I smiled. "This is my home." "Welcome." The look on her face was priceless, confusion mixed with disbelief. She actually laughed, like I'd told a joke. "Your home? Your house sitting, you mean?" I just gestured toward the dining room. "Dinner is ready, please." Thomas was standing there looking as confused as his parents, and I squeezed his hand as we walked. I could feel the questions bubbling up inside him, but I silently asked him to trust me. Just for tonight. Dinner started out civil enough. The food was excellent. My chef had outdone herself with a 5-course meal, but Catherine couldn't help herself. Between the appetizer and the main course, she started with the questions. "So, Angela," she said, her tone dripping with false sweetness, "Thomas tells us you work. That's nice. What is it you do exactly?" "I work in property management," I replied, cutting into my salmon. That was the truth. I managed properties, lots of them. Catherine's eyebrows rose. "Property management? You mean like maintenance? Cleaning?" I could see where this was going, but I stayed calm. "I oversee various properties, yes?" William jumped in then. "So you're a superintendent? A janitor?" He said it like those were dirty words, like the people who do that work are somehow less than. Thomas's jaw clenched. "Dad, don't—" But Catherine interrupted. "It's a fair question, Thomas. We're just trying to understand your fiancé's background, her work." I set down my fork. "I make sure properties are well maintained, that tenants are satisfied, that investments are sound. It's detailed work." Catherine nodded slowly, but I could see the judgment in her eyes. She'd already decided what I was. In her mind, I was the help, someone who cleaned up after people like her. The rest of dinner was painful. Every comment from Catherine was a thinly veiled insult. She asked about my education with a tone that suggested she assumed I had none. She asked about my family with the clear implication that they must be simple people. She even commented on my dress, saying it was quaint and asking if I'd gotten it at a department store. Each little cut was designed to make me feel small, to put me in what she considered my place. Thomas tried to defend me, but every time he spoke up, William would shut him down. "Let the women talk, son," or "Don't be so sensitive." They were a team, his parents, united in their mission to prove I wasn't good enough for their son. But the real moment came after dinner. We moved to the sitting room, and Catherine somehow managed to spill her wine on the antique rug. I say somehow because I honestly think she did it on purpose. She made this exaggerated gasp and then looked directly at me. "Oh dear, what a mess. Angela, could you be a darling and fetch something to clean this up? Some towels or whatever you use?" I stood up, planning to call for staff, but before I could, I heard her whisper to William, except it wasn't really a whisper. It was one of those loud whispers that people use when they want you to hear them. "See? She's used to it. Thomas said she does cleaning work, building maintenance, street cleaning, that sort of thing." William chuckled. "A street cleaner, that's essentially what she is, isn't it? And he wants to marry her." They both laughed, quiet, cruel laughter that filled the room. Thomas exploded. "What is wrong with you both?" He stood up so fast his chair almost fell over. "Do you hear yourselves? The woman I love is standing right here, and you're treating her like she's beneath you." Catherine's face went cold. "That's because she is beneath you, Thomas." "Beneath us. Beneath this family and everything we've built, I will not allow you to throw away your future on someone so unsuitable. The word hung in the air like poison. Unsuitable. William pulled out his checkbook, actually pulled out his checkbook like we were in some kind of movie. "How much?" he asked, looking at me. "How much money would it take for you to walk away from our son? Name your price. Everyone has one." I should have been angry. I should have been hurt. But honestly, I was just tired. Tired of watching them reveal exactly who they were. Tired of holding back the truth. Thomas was shouting at his father now, saying he didn't need their approval or their money. Catherine was threatening to disown him, to cut him off completely. "You live off your trust fund," she sneered. "Without us, you're nothing. You couldn't even afford a place like this." That's when I smiled. I couldn't help it. The absurdity of it all just hit me, and I smiled. "You're absolutely right, Catherine," I said calmly. "Thomas couldn't afford this place." Everyone went quiet. Thomas looked at me, confused, and maybe a little hurt. Catherine looked triumphant, like I'd just admitted defeat. "Exactly," she said. "So let's stop this charade and—" "Mr. Peterson," I called out. My estate manager appeared from the hallway. He'd been waiting. "Could you please bring the property documents?" "All of them." Catherine laughed. "What is this? Are you being evicted? Is that what this is about?" Mr. Peterson returned with a leather portfolio and handed it to me. I passed it to Catherine. "Open it." Her hands were shaking slightly as she opened the folder. I watched her eyes scan the first page, then the second. Then she flipped through faster, her face going from pink to red to completely white. What is this?" she whispered. "Those are the deeds to this estate and 12 other properties I own throughout the city," I said quietly. "Including the building where your family company has its headquarters, William. You're actually my tenants. Have been for 3 years now." The silence in that room was deafening. Thomas was staring at me, his mouth slightly open. William had frozen with his checkbook still in his hand, looking suddenly ridiculous. Catherine was flipping through the pages like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. I continued, my voice steady. "My name is Angela Brighton, but I do business under Brighton Property Holdings and about 6 other LLCs. I'm a real estate developer and investor. I started with nothing, and I mean nothing, when I was 22 years old. I bought my first property, a rundown duplex, with money I'd saved working 3 jobs. I renovated it myself, lived in half and rented out the other half. Then I did it again. And again. By the time I was 30, I had a portfolio worth $50 million. Today, at 35, my net worth is approximately $1.3 billion. Catherine's hand went to her throat. She literally clutched her pearls. That's not possible," she whispered. But I could see in her eyes that she knew it was true. The documents didn't lie. "The property management I mentioned? I manage my own portfolio. The charity gala where Thomas and I met? I funded it. Every penny. I've been featured in Forbes, Fortune, and Bloomberg, though I use my business names, not my personal name. I value privacy. Anonymity has served me well in this business." William finally found his voice. "Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you say something?" I looked at him, really looked at him. "Why would I? So you'd respect me for my money instead of treating me like trash? I wanted to see who you really were. I wanted to know if you'd treat me with basic human decency, even if you thought I was a street cleaner. And you couldn't even manage that." Thomas was still processing everything. "Angela," he said softly, "why didn't you tell me?" I turned to him, and my voice was gentler now. "Because I needed to know you loved me. Just me. Not what I could give you or buy for you. I grew up with nothing, Thomas. I know what it's like when people only see your bank account. I wanted someone who would love me even if I had nothing at all. And you did. You do." His eyes were wet. "I do love you. I don't care about any of this. I just wish you'd trusted me." I took his hand. "I was going to tell you tonight. This dinner was supposed to be my big reveal. To you and to them. I just didn't expect—" I gestured at his parents, who were still sitting there in stunned silence. Catherine tried to recover. Well, this changes things, doesn't it? We didn't know. You should have said something. We simply didn't have all the information. I shook my head. No, Catherine. This changes nothing. You treated me like I was worthless because you thought I had no money. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. The money doesn't change who I am. It just changes how you see me, and that's a you problem, not a me problem. William cleared his throat. Angela, surely you understand our concern. We were just trying to protect our son. Any parent would… I cut him off. Any parent would what? Insult their child's partner? Offer them money to go away? Call them a street cleaner like it's an insult? There are millions of people who do essential work every day, who clean streets and buildings and make this city function. They deserve respect, not your contempt. The fact that you think money is the only thing that matters says everything about you. Catherine stood up suddenly. I think we should leave. But there was something in her voice now. Fear, maybe. She'd just realized that the woman she'd been insulting owned her son's company's building, that I could make things very difficult for them if I wanted to. You can stay, I said calmly. The dinner isn't over. We haven't had dessert yet. It wasn't kindness. It was power. Making them sit there, making them face what they'd done. William looked like he wanted to argue, but Catherine grabbed his arm. They sat back down. The rest of the evening was awkward. But something had shifted. They were careful now with their words. Polite. Catherine even apologized, though it was the kind of apology that's really just about saving face. We may have been too quick to judge, she said stiffly. We hope you can understand our position. I didn't make it easy for them. Your position was that I wasn't good enough for your son because you thought I cleaned buildings for a living. My position is that everyone deserves respect, regardless of their job or bank account. We're very different, Catherine. Thomas and I left together that night, leaving his parents to find their own way out. In the car, he was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, I have so many questions. I laughed. I know, and I'll answer all of them. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. He squeezed my hand. I get it, I do. And for what it's worth, I'm kind of impressed, and maybe a little intimidated. Don't be, I said. I'm still the same person you fell in love with. I just have a really good accountant. We got married 6 months later. Catherine and William attended the wedding, though they were notably subdued. They've been more respectful since that night, though I don't think they'll ever fully accept me. And honestly, I don't need them to. I have Thomas, and he loves me for exactly who I am. Not the money, not the mansions, not the properties. Me. But here's what I learned from that whole experience. People will judge you. They'll make assumptions based on what they see, what they think they know. They'll try to put you in a box that makes sense to them, and if you let them, they'll make you feel small. But you are not what others think of you. You are not their assumptions or their judgments. You are what you know yourself to be. And if you've built something from nothing, if you've worked for everything you have, if you've survived and thrived despite the odds, that's yours. Nobody can take that from you. Catherine called me a street cleaner like it was the worst thing in the world. But you know what? I'd rather be a street cleaner with dignity than a wealthy person with no character. Money doesn't make you better than anyone. It just makes you richer. And if that's the only thing you have to be proud of, then you don't have much at all. And that's how my in-laws learned never to judge a book by its cover or a billionaire by her job description. If this story taught you something about respect, dignity, or the danger of assumptions, smash that like button. Drop a comment telling me what you would have done in my position, and subscribe because I've got more stories that'll blow your mind. Remember, never let anyone make you feel small. Sometimes the quietest person in the room owns it. See you in the next one.